Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. My name's Scott Coyne, and I'll be your host this week. Our Ben is otherwise indisposed, but as ever, we're always in good company here. How are you, Joris? I'm just back from doing some live TV. Has your day been as eventful as that?
No, not really. Although at work it was quite eventful, and I even got a little bit of a headache of that. But maybe it's also because I'm just sick and tired of draws. But we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, we will. We'll let Joris wax lyrical about how his side, are picking up too many draws at the moment. That's for sure. Let's start as we always do with a little score roundup. We'll start with the Pro League as ever. Friday night started with the big game at the Stade du Pays. Charleroi managing to win that one very dramatically, 2-1 against Molenbeek. Cercle Bruges won 3-2 against Leuven. Westerlo won 1-0 against Kortrijk to get off the mark. Anderlecht had a rather entertaining 3-1 win over Mechelen in Brussels. The big game of the weekend was the game at Sclessin. Standard Liège running out 2-1 winners against Club Brugge. Antwerp steamrolled Eupen, winning 4-1 at the Bossel. Ghent and Genk drew, as Joris was hinting at there. If you didn't already know, that was 1 each. And St Truden lost convincingly at home to rampant Union Saint-Gilloise, who won 4-0. So why don't we start at the top then, Joris, with Friday night's game where Felice Mazu's Charleroi managed to just about get themselves out of trouble in the nick of time.
Yep, indeed. In a special edition of Mazu Time that had been a while now, of course, the late winners team that he used to run at, mainly at his first spell at Charleroi, and also a bit at Union, but also now here it came up again. And Charleroi are also still unbeaten at home. The game on itself, that's a difficult one to really comment much on. I found the first part quite casual, not really entertaining from either side. But in the final 15 to 20 minutes, maybe everything turned around dramatically. First with Coffee, not being able to handle a pass back and being a bit overly confident in his footballing skills, which he has shown his technical skills in seasons prior and also this season already a few times. But this time it did not end up well for him, with Gueye managing to basically take the ball of his feet and score one of the easier goals that he will make in his career. But that was only the start of the drama. The drama. For especially for Molenbeek as well, of course, because they did concede late on the 1-1 draw, and additionally, I believe that was after that the equalizer came. There was a little bit of a fight with Mboub, and Gay was trying to intervene there and calm Mboub down. He actually did that, and for no apparent reason, was him who got the yellow card and even the red card. After that, the second yellow card, and that led to more that has a lot of consequences. Especially since Charleroi also even managed to score a goal that was a really brilliant goal in how it was hit. Should not have fallen because the way it was defended as well from I forgot his name again as well here. The new left back with great statistics at Charleroi, but I'll quickly run that as well. But that definitely hurt them in this game. But additionally, the more problems are for Molenbeek that Gueye now, of course, is suspended. It very much looks like would not really be the case if the referee had not given the wrong person the yellow card. While also we got the news that Beveren is out for 3 months. Also, Sambu Mansoni is out for a while. of course, and the injury worries and suspension worries are eating them up at the moment a bit. So they could do without that. Yeah, and Gaye might have been actually to bring it back to this game. He had been heading away the corners for the set pieces from Charleroi very effectively throughout the whole game, which you might make you believe that second goal and the loss for Molenbeek might not have happened if he would not have gotten sent off. That's something we will never know, of course, but it was definitely a possibility. And of course, the name that I was looking for was Draaksnes for the second goal. A brilliant way to hit a ball, which he could have probably put in way more easier, but this was more entertaining, I guess.
Yeah, I think Charleroi were just about worthy winners in the end, and my is the pressure off Felix Mazu now in a way. I think things had been building. When I was watching this before the winner went in right at the death there, I was starting to get very worried. I thought, he's in real trouble now, because only last week he came out and was very public about saying, the players have to wake up. I think he was feeling that obviously the pressure was rising on him as much as it was his own players. So that will be an absolutely huge relief to them against a side who have proven to be kind of quite difficult to handle so far. You were mentioning the Molenbeek injuries and them piling up. Some of them are kind of quite significant now. So just maybe all of the points that they've racked up so far, which are a decent amount, they have had a not bad start to the season, as we've been saying for a while now. I think they might be needing to rely on that possibly for a little while, because they're not going to be at full strength for a bit, are they?
No, definitely not. So let's see how they can cope with it. The answers lie in the future, of course.
Yeah, speaking of the future, I wonder what the future holds for a certain Kevin Denke, who got a hat-trick this weekend, a magnificent hat-trick for Cercle Bruges in their 3-2 win at home against Leuven. And Kevin actually had a really good game, I thought, and could have had more. Neither side were at their best defensively, it has to be said. We were joking while we were watching this, weren't we, that this could be a very, very high-scoring draw, the way that it started. We had a couple of goals inside the opening 4 minutes as well to kind of get our hearts all racing. What did you make of this one, Joris?
The defending at both sides in these initial stages of the game was horrific, or you would use another word for that, so that I will refrain from that at the moment. But just a much needed win for Cercle, of course, now after these 3 losses in a row. Even though they conceded twice on set pieces, Wireless not looking so great on the both occasions, actually, especially the second one. This first one, wait, maybe I'm mixing up the goals here, but on one of the goals he was really at fault, I feel, and on the other one maybe he could have done more, but not that he was the only one to blame on that one. And at the other end of the pitch, the team has 12 goals scored, and Denke has now made 8 of them, which shows both how good he is playing at this season for the majority of the time, and the issue that Cercle are having with that they were always going to have with Ueda leaving, but they can't rely on just one player to, in this case, Denke, to really make up for that, even though they are performing well and and also in the rankings are doing well. Because while certain teams draw a lot, Cercle is the one exception here. They have no draws yet, so they've won or lost every game they've played. Leuven then, Shlomo on his debut, scoring his first goal, being an Israeli defender in these times. That actually was quite fitting. I thought, the without going further into the politics there, of course, but just on a personal level for him, that must have been good, given recent events. yeah, also if we're also talking about teams where the injury waves are continuing. Yeah, Torstensson also got injured before the game. Sagrado was also already mentioned that he was injured and would be out for quite a while as well. So also they are having some injury worries in the upcoming time. And well, but I do feel like they actually reacted relatively well actually on the injuries also after coming back twice, mainly that in this game. After coming back twice, they've reacted quite well to ultimately still concede that final goal, of course, but it could have gone differently as well. It was quite an even game, and Leuven definitely also had their chances, but did not take them. And yeah, I think he had one of those days, and is now top scorer of the league, of course, as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Joris, what you make of what Kevin Denke's future is going to be, because I was alluding to the fact that he probably will leave next summer. There's not been much secret about that, and you were underlining how over-reliant they've really been on him up till now. There will be a degree of succession planning, obviously, in Circle. The recruitment has generally been very good, so they will be aware of that issue. There are some really good attacking players at Circle at the moment who obviously need to pitch in a little bit more. That kind of goes without saying. There are players there that do have goals in them. Somebody who I've been quite impressed by since the start of the season has been Alan Minda. He was pretty poor this weekend, I thought. Kind of came off injured himself, but he's got a lot to contribute. I'm also a big fan of Yanga Boho, as regular listeners will know as well. I think he's a player that's getting better all the time. On the subject of Leuven, I wanted to get your thoughts on Thorsteinsson, Joris, because obviously he came off injured and he's probably been Leuven's best player so far this season. They won't want to be without him for too long, I don't think, will they?
No, of course not. Yeah, like you said, he's been their probably most influential player this season, and I'm not sure if they can do a long time without him. I think it's crucial for their season that he gets back as soon as possible. Otherwise, the future looks a bit more grim already again for Mike Bass and his men.
Yeah, I think that's the last thing Mark Bryce needs. We've actually had a listener question this week on Circle, which we should really pick up just now as we're talking about Circle. Jack Hacken, Feyenoord enthusiast, thanks for the question, Jack, asks us, is Circle overtaking Club now? Since Mira Muslic has settled at Circle, they've been continually getting better and better. Have been playing an attractive style of football, while Club have had 4 coaches in 12 months, while continually getting worse. Are there any winds of change? Asks Jack. What do you reckon, Joris?
Club Brugge is not at their best, and Cercle Brugge is probably at one of their best forms, and still the rankings are not in favor of Cercle Brugge at the moment. So I would think, of course, it was not a very serious question, but I don't think that's something that is happening. Also, not completely agreeing with a very attractive style of football, to be honest, as well. Like, they're picking up points, but yeah, okay, that's a matter of taste, of course, as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I think just, my tuppence worth is I don't think Cercle are in danger of overtaking Club in terms of the consistent level that Club have obviously set. I think the important thing here, I suppose from a neutral perspective, is that Cercle are making great strides as a club. They've moved from being a club that flirted with relegation season after season to becoming, a solid Pro League club now, and a solid Pro League club who are pushing quite hard, rightly so, because of the work that Miro Muslic and his team have been doing there for hopefully a playoff 1 spot. Doesn't mean they'll achieve it, but the targets and objectives at that club have completely changed because of the progress they've made. So although I don't think they're going to be usurping Club's position anytime soon, they are making massive strides. and the future looks bright. And I think it's important that they hold on to a coach like Miran Muslic as long as they can, because a lot of the good work that's gone on there is now driven forward by him on a day-to-day basis as well, and he seems a very good fit for the club. So yeah, a club moving in the right direction. I think that's probably the right answer to that one. Let's move on, shall we, Joris? Let's have a chat about Jonas de Rock and his side Westerlo, who not only managed to get off the mark, much to his delight, but managed to get off at the bottom this week after their 1-0 win against Kortrijk.
Yep, and there's a few more good statistics there, of course. That first win, 2 clean sheets into the last 3 games, not lost in these last 3 games as well already. Things can change quickly there at the bottom if you see the numbers like that, which is, of course, a bit too rosy maybe as well, but definitely a game they needed to win, and they did. And the good thing for Westerlo as well is, of course, also that their schedule actually has been quite hard on them thus far, and now it eases a little bit for them. Of course, they need to make use of that. Otherwise, things could get worse really quickly again as well. But if they indeed keep on picking up some points from now on, then their season might not be completely lost yet, in the sense of they might be able to even still climb out of this relegation zone, the last 4 teams, the relegation playoffs. Of course, will that be enough? That's the question. For Kortrijk, no wins since 2009 in the Cup in Westerlo. That's 8 games. It's less dramatic than really 2009. This caveat I always I always put in with these stats, but 8 games. It's still already quite a list. Also, the 7th time already this season that they haven't scored a goal in the first half. Well, okay, in this actually game, even not at all. Although, they actually did score a goal in the final dying minutes of the game. And there is a lot of controversy about that one as well, actually, whether that should have been called offside or not. So I'd like to hear your opinion on that. I'm sitting on the fence on that one. I think it's a very tough call. It is a discussion point, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's one of those discussion points from this weekend that got a lot of people kind of hot under the collar. I know the Kortrijk fans were, pretty angry with that, and it was funny because I think the decision was maybe just about right. I didn't feel as outraged by it as the Kortrijk fans. I can see why that was actually chopped. I mean, there's a number of things that go on in that phase of play, of course, and this is, I suppose, another good example of why I think it's important that we all get access to the recordings of the conversations as soon as we can as well, because this is one of those ones where initially it's not really very clear, particularly where the fault lies. And what phase of play is it that they're actually focusing on to kind of base the decision on as well? Obviously you could look back on any decision and probably go back far enough. You will find something that, a foul or an offside somewhere that, leads to a goal being ruled out. But I think it was the initial confusion of not knowing exactly what was at the heart of this. And these things can be cleared up even ahead of us talking about them as we do every week, with the communications being available much more readily. And believe you me, everybody, I think that day is coming. It's getting closer all the time. At least it feels like that. The pressure's definitely on for that to change. And it means that we don't all spend, all of our time at work and on lunch kind of debating what we thought of that. I think the most relieved person in the house at that particular time will have been Jonas de Rock, obviously. I mean, this is this is a massive win for them. They've been looking a little bit, I suppose, shaky is probably the word I would use for a while now. Not entirely convincing, kind of trying to find their feet again. Rejigging the side somewhat, and things obviously haven't quite been working for them. So he will definitely be hoping that this result, which is a big one for them, obviously, because it's against Kortrijk, who are right down there with them just now, will be some sort of catalyst for them to get going again. It was a very weird game to watch for me. I thought, for the most part, Kortrijk actually were the better side generally, and Westerlo obviously being the home team. I was thinking, are they deliberately trying to play in the break here for the majority of the game? And I couldn't honestly make my mind up. They seemed reasonably happy to let Kortrijk have the ball, which for a side at home you would expect to be in the front foot themselves. And for most of last season when they were at home, Headkupier was a difficult place to go for most sides, and that's where they played their best football. But they seem to be in the process of adapting their game, I suppose. That's how I would describe it. And maybe we're seeing the signs of them being a little bit more pragmatic in their approach at the moment, especially at home, with confidence not necessarily being at the highest. But they've got an interesting schedule coming up, and maybe there's some more points for them in there, because obviously there's a long way still to go yet. Speaking of long ways to go, there was a big game in Brussels on Saturday night, and I say a big game in Brussels, emphasising that point, Joris, because this was the first time Anderlecht had played at home on a Saturday evening for what feels like forever. They have installed a rather snazzy new LED lighting system. Most football fans will know that a lot of teams across Europe now have these big lighting systems in stadiums, which often feature on European nights for clubs. But Anderlecht decided to fit their new LED lighting system, bathe the Lotto Park in mauve, of course, and celebrate the 80th birthday of club icon Paul van Himst, who came out into the centre circle under a spotlight with the rest of the stadium bathed in mauve. And then they played some rather lovely footage of some of his old goals with some messages on the screen. And it was actually, Van Himst himself was very moved, Joris, but I found it quite moving as well, because I think it's easy for people to forget, especially those who don't necessarily know their Belgian football that well, that Paul Van Himst is absolutely an icon. And his 80th birthday comes in the same week that Eden Hazard obviously announces his retirement. Another legend of Belgian football, a modern legend, perhaps apt. It's coming this week. I was asked today when I was doing a live television interview in connection with Belgian football about Eden Hazard, and I got asked where did I feel he kind of sits in the pantheon of Belgian sort of football culture, and I said, well, it's always difficult to judge these things, especially in the same week of Van Himst's 80th birthday. I thought that was a bit unfair in a way, but he's, as the modern pantheon goes, he's absolutely right up there, I think, isn't he?
Definitely, yeah. Both of these players in the whole history for sure. Yeah, and then it's a matter of a lot of things that like I personally haven't seen Van Imst play in live, so I can't really judge him. So I won't even try. I think that's the smartest thing for me to do here as well. But definitely both of them very, very influential players in Belgian football as well. And for me, Hazard is definitely the number one player that I have seen. Let's put it that way as well. So far, a Belgian player that is, of course, and I think also the Van Himst tribute to him, was probably the highlight of the game. Maybe until a Mechelen, a player from Mechelen that comes from the city of Mechelen put a nice accolade to the evening by scoring a goal for Anderlecht, of course, with Amuzu, of course. Definitely that was more the highlight of the evening, and really a job well done by the Anderlecht, of course, the Anderlecht the marketing department or whoever was involved at this celebration. That's maybe still the better word. Even tribute does not sound perfect to me, but then still a little bit about the game, of course. There seems to be something going on with Stoikis against Mechelen. They have a thing. Four of his 5 goals in the Jupiler Pro League have fallen against Mechelen now in the last 3 games that Anderlecht played against Mechelen as well. Yeah, so definitely, definitely something going on between them. Anderlecht still unbeaten at home. This is a stat that I will reuse a few times in these episodes. That's a spoiler alert, but definitely it was the case. Like with Charleroi, for example, already as well. Yeah, and for Mechelen, and like an ancient, like brilliant goal from Amuzu, by the way. That the third one, definitely go watch that one. He seems to score a bit more often, and when he scores, then it's usually not ugly goals. let's put it that way. And on Mechelen, then they desperately need a win now as well after a few winless weeks or maybe a winless month up by now. And for doing that, in this game, it was not impossible. I felt Anderlecht were the better side throughout, but especially in the first half, but in the Mechelen mainly missed their momentum in the first 15 minutes, 15 maybe 20 minutes of the second half, when the scoreline was still 1-0. And they actually created quite a few chances, 4 or 5 even, I believe. And that they didn't take them. And then the one time Anderlecht went over, the first time Anderlecht really came over in the second half, they did manage to easily carve them open and get that second goal as well. And then the game was more or less over, despite Storm scoring a rather fortuitous goal, I guess. And bring the scoreline back to 2-1 before that accolade from Amuzo. But definitely. And in the bigger picture, of course, for Anderlecht also, they are at that moment they went up top in the weekend. They are not at the end of the weekend, but nonetheless they did good business. By winning this game and by seeing some opponents in the ranking drop some points.
Yeah, of course, those who saw the game will know already that Anderlecht were playing in that what I think was that lovely white strip, of course, which is a modern replica, if you like, of the great kit of Van Himst's heyday as part of the celebrations on the evening. And the whole game just had a I don't know, a celebratory feel about it. I mean, obviously it was leaned very heavily in Anderlecht's favour. It was their celebration, but there was something about the atmosphere that was very special. And there has been talk now that perhaps Anderlecht might play more games at home on a Saturday evening, and the logistical issues that are very Brussels based ones that have partly prevented that up till now may well be looked at again, which is interesting. It certainly didn't keep the crowds away who came out for the party. I thought it was interesting afterwards, actually. I was listening to Rob Scoofs talking about the game, and he was saying he was disappointed that Mechelen weren't able to impose themselves really at any point and make the most of particularly that period early in the second half where they had some more possession and were managing to cause Anderlecht a few problems. I think he felt they showed them maybe a little bit too much respect in the first half. But I think you're right, Joris. I think they badly need, a win or a couple of wins now, because they are slowly starting to kind of get sucked into that mix down at the bottom, and the inconsistency that's plagued them for a while seems to be getting the better of them at the moment. I think they're struggling to take take their opportunities when they come as well. And even a player like Patrick Fluke, who's been very good since he came in, didn't have a great game this week, and rather mysteriously was substituted yet again, depressingly early, I think, for a player who can offer what he can offensively by Stephen Defoe. It seems to be something he likes doing. There's a pattern of Fluke kind of coming off with a good half an hour of games to go. So I don't know whether that's more a tactical thing or more about kind of keeping players fit and happy and giving everybody some game time, because that one, just on a personal level, to me is a bit mysterious. But I enjoyed this game, and obviously it was won in the end. Right at the end, it was finished by that wonderful goal by Amuzu, which is definitely one that he will remember with great fondness. A fantastic goal, that one. So let's move on, shall we, to the big game of the weekend. And it probably was the game that most people had been looking forward to since the start of the season. Everyone knows about Ronny Deila obviously leaving Standard and going to Club Brugge in the summer, and some of the rancor around that, particularly in the Standard fans' point of view. Everyone looked at their diary when the fixtures first came out, didn't they, Joris, and went, when the club first go to Sclessin, when are we going to get that spicy kind of pairing? And we had it this weekend for the first time. And the truth is, from a spice perspective, it was a bit of a damp squib, certainly off the pitch. As far as tifos and kind of fan reception was concerned. Although I did notice that Ronny Deila did look pretty nervous pre-match and during the early stages of the game. The spice, of course, did come eventually. It was a reasonably heated match, which we now know Standard managed to win, somewhat against the odds slightly. I think there was an element of luck in my view. They didn't play particularly well, but rode their luck as you need to do in games sometimes, and get the opening goal, which of course is checked by VAR. And again, a slight element of controversy. I don't know what you think, Joris. The VAR, to me, seemed to confirm that it was marginally offside, but they gave it as marginally on. Bacardi's header. Great set piece, actually. Really, really good. Obviously, Isaac Price nabs the winner right at the end. Ronny Deila very unhappy with that after Club getting back into the game late on through their main man of the moment, Andreas Skov Olsen. I think Club dominated this game for the most part, and I think 9 times out of 10 probably should have won this, but I think, that failure to use the ball well in the final third is what got the better of them this weekend. Ronny Deila talking specifically about that afterwards, saying that he felt that they controlled the game, the entire game, which I think they did. Football's a funny thing, isn't it, Joris? Because sometimes, you don't, in a way, get your just desserts. You get that little bit of luck, and there's a certain poetic justice, in a way, to Standard coming away with the win in the end. And maybe just now the Standard fans will maybe be able to move on from Ronny Deila gate.
There was indeed less action off the pitch, and then that's a good thing, actually, I suppose. There was not that much spice about the game. A good thing in the sense that it often goes a bit too far. It seems to be one of the extremes. A bit more in the middle might have been even better, of course. A little slice, but that was that, and of course everyone at Sclessin in the end will have been happy with that result, for sure. Get that first goal, that really was a great header. Have to underline that. Probably the best header you'll see all season, maybe even. But was it offside or not? Yeah, it's a difficult one. They in the end called it that the lines were too close to each other, so that it could. Yeah, that's why the small margin of error, they went with the decision on field, which was that it was onside. That's fair enough, I suppose. Although I'm not completely convinced the line was taken correctly as well, though. that would change things there as well. If that line if there was not a foot, that the line was not running over the foot instead of slightly being ahead of Bacardi, of course. Then, but okay, it is what it is, and that's fair enough, I suppose. Although I'm not completely convinced that this should be the case. It seems that that's the rule. So yeah, so be it for the moment. Yeah, Standard on a good streak now as well. By the way, that was also their second goal of the season at home. Now they have 3 in the end, so that's something they definitely still have a lot of margin to improve. But yeah, they are quite on a good streak nonetheless. And moving up the table, I found Bodar probably the best player on the pitch, or definitely from Standard's side. Yeah, also that shows in the numbers of the season as well. Yeah, they have the second best defense, believe it or not. Yeah, there's definitely the issues lie a bit more at a different aspect of the field. So this season, and on Club Brugge, yeah, this disappointing points haul so far. I think you could say that either way. Yeah, if you compare to last season, I know this is not something you need to do all the time, but for the sake of it, after 10 games, yeah, they actually to score. They score worse. There's a bit of the factor that helps them in this sense is that other teams are indeed, like I mentioned last week, also performing a lot worse than last season. Not only other teams, but also the points haul and total of the teams leading the pack is lower than last season. But my main things is more on them is like the reliability again on Skoff Olsen. Yeah, like he scored again, but he was already this whole second half, at least maybe longer, clearly half injured. And in the end, so he did score, but also he is one of the main responsibles for conceding that late goal as well. So in the end, it didn't even get them that point. And also, just in general, of course, is it really worth it to risk that important of a player that is injury prone, that has been proven in the past already, for this kind of game at the moment, at this stage of the season? Especially, okay, that you can't foresee then, of course, but that the gamble doesn't pay off either. Although, well, on maybe another thing, of course, you could also immediately see Nusa's impact when he was also back on the pitch. Yeah, and he immediately had an impact on the game and on the threats that came from Club Brugge as well. So that's good news for them that he is back so far, it seems. But yeah, a lot of things to ponder at Club Brugge still, though.
Yeah, you're right. There is. And speaking of pondering, we've had a couple of listeners' questions that touch on some of the things we've just discussed there. So we'll try and wrap these questions together, I think, because they cover pretty much the same thing. It's really Ollie asks, is it fair to say that Standard were a bit lucky since Bruges have been lacking this luck over the last 5 games? Could it not be that there's something wrong with Bruges? And regular listener Matt Ball at Matchday Ball asks, what do you think is more of a problem at club? Is it the leaky defence that refuses to get clean sheets? And obviously they didn't get one again this week. Or is the real issue with the attack that was firing but seems to have dropped off?
So there are 2 questions. I'll start with the last one with Matt. Well, I do feel like it's not necessarily the issue of one specific line, but the balance in the squad seems to be, yeah, not completely in the starting 11 as well, not completely right. So that could lean into even maybe the midfield might be, or parts of the midfield could be the issue. There's clearly talent there, but does it really suit the style of play, and do they cover enough ground, and so on? Yeah, but also all of the right answer here is to me, like, everywhere there are some issues. Yeah, I've actually said it from the beginning that the defense, in my opinion, is not good enough to really go all the way this season, or is it always going to be a liability, and that in that case the attackers, of course, need to keep on scoring. And well, it does happen, of course. We've seen that on occasions with other teams as well, that do rely on scoring more goals than the others. there are periods in the season where that does not happen. Will that resolve itself or not? That is indeed a big question. But to get out of it, I do feel like a little bit more of the balance might needs to be found. Plus, they need to be getting more threats and more danger and actually score more goals and rely less on Scovolson and Nusa in these occasions as well. Of course, if they are both on the pitch already, that already will make a big difference, I feel. And um, yeah, on that first question, can you repeat that one? I forgot it by answering the first this one already as well.
Yeah, Ollie was asking about whether it's fair to say that Standard were a bit lucky to get the win. Um,
Yeah,
and
well, I guess yes, it's fair to say either way. You can always look at a game in a vacuum, but it is not a coincidence either. That's it's yeah. I think that is still a thing you can say without the one thing without the other one not being true either.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Ollie was aiming his guns at me there with that question, because I did come out of the traps very early after the game finished and said that I felt Standard were quite lucky to win the game, which is no bad thing. As I was saying, you need that in football sometimes when in a game when you've not been the better side. The real positive about this, from a Standard perspective, is I think that they actually managed to do this weekend what they've been trying to do for a long time, and that is take the few chances that they did create in a game, the efficiency that had been missing, because they, yet again this weekend, they didn't really create a lot, but they took two chances. Ronny Deila did say afterwards, actually, of the winning goal, that he described it as really, really annoying. That was the actual quote. He feels that was just simply, bad defending, which I think he's probably right about. He feels that that's just, something that shouldn't have happened at all, and frustrated not to have come away with a point, considering that the club played reasonably well. But yeah, I mean that luck, certainly in my part, is not meant as a criticism of Standard. I just find it ironic that they've benefited from that this weekend on a game that perhaps on a personal level to lots of people involved in that fixture was much more important than it would ordinarily be. Always, this is a big fixture, but I think there was a lot of things riding on things emotionally, and it was nice to see the Standard fans and players letting off a little bit of steam after the win, seeing what it made to them. I do think one thing I think it's important to watch out for is, I think it's important that Standard approach all games with the degree of conviction that they brought onto the pitch this weekend, Joris, because they did look like, although they were on the back foot for huge chunks of this game, they did look like they were up for it very much, and they've come into some games where they haven't quite looked as up for it as they did this weekend. So the levels of motivation and energy and aggressiveness that they applied to this one, I think they need to try and bring on a consistent basis. And if they can do that, then they probably will start to pick up some more points. But yeah, as Joris was saying right at the beginning of us talking about this game, I think things are looking a whole lot more positive down Sclessin way after that one, and they will go into the international break on fine spirits as a result of that. Speaking of sides having fine wins, or fine wins as they would see it, we saw looking at it now, an easy home win at the Bossel as Antwerp steamrolled Eupen 4-1. Things started very well for the East Cantons club, didn't they, Joris? Nuhus opening the scoring for Eupen early on in the 11th minute, and then it all kind of seemed to unravel for them after that. And Antwerp, a side who we've been highlighting recently have been struggling to score, seem to have not only found their scoring boots again, Joris, but seem to be coming up with some remarkable XG figures.
Yes, definitely 5.67. That's our good numbers for sure. You don't see them that often this high. I think we saw it similar at least last season as well, once, and maybe even this season, but I don't recall that one. Maybe Club Brugge against Molenbeek, that might actually have been a high one as well. firing at all cylinders, except I will make that one remark then now already before going a bit more positive about Antwerp. Except Janssen, despite scoring 4 goals, he didn't, and he missed a few big chances as well, which also more or less explains this higher XG. He was not the only one though. They could have scored more. Ekkelkamp also missed a sitter, I believe, and Muya, I think as well may also a really big chance that on other days he would score. Well, in the end, he did score. He did score as well, of course, but he could have had more than one goal. But not that much to say about this game. Actually, I think since the difference was so big, the only thing making it a bit more interesting was Nuhu opening the score for Urban, but that did not last long. That was the first goal Antwerp conceded out of open play this season in the league. Of course, as well, and also still their only fifth goal in total. That's these are definitely numbers you can build on. There, but at Antwerp, you could really see where the issue does not lie and where the issues have been lying for the past few weeks, a little bit. And for Eupen, fifth loss in a row. Are they already at that stage where they are getting that just slides down? So far, they're still out of the relegation playoffs, just on games won because of that. That's the first criterion, and not goals conceded, because I believe they have the joint worst defense in the league as well. And that showed in this game as well. Passes again. I do not really want to pick on him, but he scored that own goal, so we have to mention him only because of that already, I suppose. And just in general, did not have a great game again either. And I feel like Kofeld needs to find a different way of playing as well, to keep them in the league as well. If there's not, again, they're still relatively safe at the moment, but they really need to start getting points, because 5 losses in a row, that are not good stats.
Yeah, they're starting to show signs of the kind of free fall that beset them for a lot of last season as well, after a reasonably bright start, I think, aren't they? While we're talking about Antwerp on this section, I want to get your thoughts, Joris, on the news that was confirmed today that Antwerp midfielder Arthur Vermeeren, which obviously everybody will know a lot about, the footballing world knows all about Arthur Vermeeren now, no secret. It's been confirmed that he has received his first senior call-up to the Red Devils after some injuries. So after those clamours for him to be part of Domenico Tedesco's squads, he has been called up through the injuries of other players, and looks like he's going to get an opportunity unexpectedly at this stage. Did that surprise you, Joris? I think that's kind of quite exciting news on a number of levels, really.
No, it's not really surprising. It's surprising in the sense that by doing this after Trossard got injured, like whatever Tedesco said before, as an explanation why Vermeer was not there yet, does not make sense, because it's not a position for position switch. And he said that Vermeer, he didn't need a profile of Vermeer, as there are already so many profiles, which was already a weird one considering Mandela Keita, his partner in midfield, did get a call up as originally already as well. And despite how good he is, of his type of player, there definitely are an abundance in the squad, or there's an abundance of choice there. So that did not make sense. But the call up in itself is deserved, I guess, as well. Definitely something exciting to see, and I find it good that did happen. Young players dropping them in. It's not that he's completely a newbie either. He already has a little bit, not the full 2 games, of course, but of European experience as well at a high level, and performed all right there. Definitely giving 2 assists last week against Shakhtar. Does not hurt to stop the hype. or does not stop the hype. Let's say it like that. I think my phrasing was incorrect. Otherwise, that definitely not surprised and quite excited as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. It is really exciting news, and the pressure had kind of been building. It's definitely a deserved call up. That's for sure. It'll be really interesting to see if he starts any of the upcoming games. I think as well if he's thrown right in there, because I think he's ready for it. It'll be interesting to see if he can bring the form that he's brought domestically to the national team and what he can add to that squad, because the talent there is huge, and we all know he has an absolutely bright future ahead of him wherever he plays his club football, but also at a national level as well. Got the news today as well that replacing him with the under-21s is Anderlecht's Marco Cana, which I think is kind of a good call from the under-21 perspective as well. So some interesting movement on the national team front today. The big game on Sunday, Joris, was involving your side, the Genkies, who yet again another draw. The game finished 1-1 at the Galamco against the Buffaloes. Your side going ahead at the midway point in the second half. Andy Zakiri scoring again, and then Matisse Samwas managing to, I wouldn't say salvage a draw, but kind of get the draw for Ghent. How do you feel about the game now, looking back on it, Joris? Because I think, at the time, Ghent seemed to have this one under control. Is it one that got away from them, do you think?
All in all, a fair result. With that anyway was the case. Both teams had their moments, but after the 0-1, the Genk had some chances to kill the game off. So in that sense, maybe. But all in all, on itself as well, again, in a vacuum, a fair result and a result that I can live with as well. A point away from home in a top game is never a really bad thing, but especially since after the 1-1, even Van der Voort also had to make a good save as well, still to not completely lose the game. And also here was a bit of a very close offside call. In the end, I think that one was a bit clearer, but still close to what happened at Sclessin, where when in this time Orman's goal did get disallowed. That was horrific defending after 30 seconds after taking the lead as well. By the way, that's another topic that in the end did by more luck than knowledge gets. They got away with that. But the first time that Gent have not scored at least twice at home this season. That's a stat, I suppose. And they also lost top spots because of this draw. But nonetheless, I think a decent result for both sides. But yeah, for Genk, it's more like, again, a draw. To go back to my silly comparisons to last season, they actually have lost as many games as last season at this stage of the season, which is one. And that game last season at the first day of the season already. This time slightly later, but not much. But there's just the difference is this time there's 6 draws and only 3 wins after that. And I believe at that stage it was only 1 draw and 8 wins, which does make all the difference, of course. It's a bit of a weird season so far. Putting a game over the line, it's the team of 2023 for Genk already in the last season. It also already started as well. They have the exact same goal difference as their opponents, Gent here and Anderlecht, who both are in better positions in the rankings as well. So yeah, that's that are some stats like you feel like if they got a little bit more lucky, they would be higher up the table. And also if they finally get a home win, because their away results are actually really good. Actually, haven't lost yet, and after already having played at Union, at Gent, at Club. So these results are so far not the issue, but at home there's definitely some things that need to be resolved somehow. Whether that's a psychological thing already or not, they definitely somehow need to get over it. And yeah, it's at the system point of the season, it still feels like it can go either way. At the moment, they have been kicked out by Cercle Brugge out of the temporary top 6 spots and playoff one. Well, not on the games won, of course, not on goal difference, like I mentioned before at the relegation as well.
Yeah, coming into this game, I know you were a little bit worried about the starting lineup. How do you think Eloidi got on this weekend? Because I know he was somebody you were highlighting as having just been worried as to how he would do. And also I wanted to ask you as well about Andy Zakiri, since he's come in. Obviously, a lot of pressure on him to be the main man, and he seems to generally have started kind of pretty brightly, all things considered, I think.
Yeah, on Elouadi, of course, my worries were not really about him necessarily. A little bit as well, because it was a debut, of course, and then that in a game against a team that was performing really well this season so far. But more that it was not Munoz, but okay, at least on that side, it seems like it was more of a general fitness issue. So he was just rested in a kind of a rotation, and I was actually still pleasantly surprised by Elouadi. For most of the game, he did well, especially defensively. There was some times at the ball he could have done better, but on the second half, that improved as well, almost leading into an assist or even a goal for himself, even after a great rush that looked quite Munoz-esque, if I can call it that way. But yeah, no, all in all, he had a really good game, all things considered. Of course, slightly helped. I need to mention that match factor, of course, as well. That Kandus got off at hint, and by doing so, his straight opponent, well, one of his opponents in Archie Brown, moved to a different position in defense, which made it a bit easier on both him and the Genk squad defense on a whole as well, as Brown was playing a good game at this position at the more to the left of the pitch as well. So yeah, no, on already good one. And on Zekiri, well, it's on the whole he started well. I guess he's pitched in already with a few goals. Seems a bit of a no nonsense striker, and being a bit more controlled in his finishing. He has a lot. I haven't checked that specifically, but I think a lot of his actions actually and shots actually are goal bound. That doesn't mean they go in, of course, but often actually so far they have been blocked. But it would have, if not, they would have been at least towards a goal. Unlike I remember now, that's no judgment or anything, but I remember a ball that would have been the perfect rugby ball from Tolu, his placement in the game that went probably out of the stadium. Even that was a weird moment, but anyway, we're not talking about that. On Zekiri, yeah, and in the build up, he has his moments. It probably can be better still, but he's not completely useless. So put it like that. He sometimes has a good layup. Not everything works, but and he knows his positioning. So he's good at his positioning himself in front of goals. So yeah, I can't complain too much. So far, a good start on the whole.
And hopefully not a draw for your team next week. The final game of the weekend then was at the Daewoo Wasabi Stadion. Torsten Fink's St. Truden losing convincingly at home to Alexander Blessen's rampant Union Saint-Gilloise side at the moment. I say rampant because they seem to have not let their relatively minor setback in their European exploits during the week and going to Anfield affect their performance levels at all this weekend, running out convincing winners. And I think we saw, interested to get your thoughts on this in a second, Joris, but we saw very much a tale of two sides here. You know, St. Truden have changed their playing style and their approach this season, obviously under Torsten Fink, trying to play more on the front foot and be more positive and less defensive on the whole, perhaps missing some elements and balance in the side and missing opportunities, not taking the numerous chances that they create. They create a lot more than they used to. They're playing here a side, obviously, in Union, who absolutely know how to take their chances and in some lessons showed them a real lesson in efficiency. Alessio Castro Montes getting another goal for the club, striker Gustav Nielsen getting a couple, and Mohamed Amoura, who hasn't been shy in having a positive start at the club, scoring a really fine counter-attacking fourth goal when the game was already gone. But yeah, I mean, I think in some ways, if I was Torsten Fink, I would be looking at Union Saint-Gilloise and saying, that's who we want to be. That's what we need to do, because we're playing good football, but we just need to kind of find a way of taking our chances, because I think, you know, the opportunities they're creating and not being able to finish is kind of costing them in games at the moment, and it must be kind of quite frustrating for them, because they're doing an awful lot right.
Yeah, they have a bit of the same issue as Cercle Brugge, actually, with they have scored 11 goals and Koita scored 7 out of them, which at the same time is a bit of a worry, because unlike Denki, it's not so unlikely that Koita will have them draw spell in this season. Denki as well, of course, but he is an out-and-out striker. Koita, it's a bit of a hit and miss, quite literally, in this case. And that's still a bit of a worry, despite creating a lot more. That they definitely have missed out on that striker in the end, in the transfer window. And so far, well, I don't think anyone is complaining. They're playing quite well still, and they are not in a very dramatic position in the rankings either. But that's now 3 games without a win, nonetheless, 2 draws, and then this loss, which was indeed a bit of a case of efficiency, taking your chances, like you mentioned, with Union doing so. Castromontes was his first goal for Union, if I'm not mistaken, though, so that to correct you slightly there. But yeah, of course, still impressive how they keep doing it. They're also the new sole leaders of the pack. Last week they already became the joint leaders. Now they're the sole ones. The stars are looking bright so far.
Yeah, very much a club that thrive on the pressure, Union, I think, and continuing to do so, even with all those changes in the playing staff and on the coaching staff this summer. Kind of so interesting to see how they've responded to that. Speaking of sides and responding to pressure, let's move on to the Challenger Pro League, shall we, Joris? Because we've reached Matchday 8. And I'll do a wee score roundup first before we pick up on some of the news this weekend. Lommel remained top. They won 1-0 at home against SL16. Sarang lost 3-1 at home to Timmy Simon's Dender. Young Genk lost 2-1 to Beerschot, who are rising the table a little bit faster now. Club Next won 1-0 at home against Franck Marin, which is a game I saw half of, actually. Quite an entertaining game, this one. You know, pretty intense and surprisingly aggressive. Actually, I was wondering whether there was a beef that I was unaware of, because there was a fair bit of needle in this game. A finely contested fixture, that's for sure. Patro Eisden's recent fine form was ended by RFC Liège. They went there and won 2-0. Beveren's, I say sticky start. We'll talk about them in a little bit more detail in a minute, but Beveren's, less than positive start to the season kind of continued. They lost convincingly 3-0 at home to Zulte Waregem, and the Oostend lost 2-1 to Anderlecht Futures, and Lierse's poor form continued. They lost 1-0 at home to Denza. So, as I was saying, Joris, Lommel remained top and seemed to be handling the pressure for the moment. Zulte, courtesy of their winner, back into second, because Patro dropped points this weekend, which means that top scorer remains the man that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, Adriano Bertoncini at RFC Liège. He's now got 7 and 8. Didn't score this weekend. So one running away is ended for him, but he's still the main marksman of the moment. Lierse, now in the drop zone, they are winless in 7 now. They've lost 4 of their last 5, so they're on a wretched run that they'll need to do something about. But I suppose the main team I wanted to ask you about, and it's partly because we've got a listener question about them, Joris, really was Beveren. We know they've not had the start to the season they would want. We know that they have struggled somewhat to replace the offensive firepower that they had at their disposal last year. Let's start, shall we, with the listener question, which comes from at Steve DWR, who asks us, what on earth is going on with Beveren, and what are the true intentions of Bolt Holdings, who, of course, are the American company who own the club? What are your thoughts on what's happening at the Free Teal just now, Joris?
Well, you touched on the main issue, I think, as well already. With Mbokani and Barry leaving, they did not, and not replacing them in a good manner. It seems so far. I guess it's not an easy task, of course, but it seems like they really did not get the right replacement in for either one of them, because they actually were both crucial. That is a main issue on a sportive level on the field, I guess. About Bolt, well, I'm always skeptical about any investment groups, especially foreign investment groups in Belgian clubs. And I know that's talking about a lot of clubs in Belgium, but I'm just not fond of them anyway. But I can't give a specific insight on this one. I do not have the information here, so but that was just my personal judgment, not even, but like opinion about foreign investors in football, which is a bit short-sighted, of course.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, this, I think, because we've had a number of Beveren fans getting in touch with us. The Beveren fans are very interactive with us here at the BFP, as are some fans of other teams, which we always encourage. We love hearing from clubs, fans, and it's interesting because obviously the story with Beveren last year is very, very narrowly missing the chance to go back up to the Pro League on the final day, and under normal circumstances they would have been promoted along with Molenbeek. So I think they're having a tough time at the moment. I mean, obviously the club are underperforming. It goes without saying. I think statistically, in a lot of regards, they're performing quite well, but that's not converting into wins or points. And I think that's frustrating fans at the moment. I think the discontent is growing in the sense that I think a lot of the Beveren fans now have kind of turned against Wim de Dekker a little bit. I think they're now not necessarily convinced that he's the man to get them promoted now. Joris was touching on the recruitment perhaps not working out, which was always going to be difficult, always hugely difficult. And there's an argument to say that some of the fantastic quality that was in that side last year, they were lucky to get. They got in ahead of some other competitors and things worked out for them. Obviously, they lost Jordi Condom, which we've talked about before. Tom van den Abeel comes in, the new sporting director, who has been the target of a lot of criticism for fans, particularly with them underperforming at the moment. The difficult thing, I think, for them is they are sitting just above the drop zone at the moment. They are currently 8 points off a playoff spot, which is right at the edges, I think, of leaving them no real wiggle room. But then they're 10 points off an automatic promotion spot, and although we're only 8 games in, that's a lot to make up at this stage. And to hope that things kind of start clicking for you. Looking at how they've been playing this season, I think there is potential in some of the players that they've brought in. I don't think their recruitment is perhaps as disastrous as some fans would like you to think, but I do think there are some issues at both ends of the pitch. The ease with which Zulte Waregem scored their 3 goals this weekend was pretty frightening. It was like a knife through butter. It was far, far too easy. I think their main issue, though, probably is offensively. I think they're lacking somebody at the moment who would be a kind of a clinical chance creator, if you like, whether it's a winger or an attacking midfielder who can provide those assists. You know what I mean, and bring the attack kind of together. I think the opportunities that they're creating, they're not taking either. So there's a slight perfect storm there at the moment. One thing I did want to ask you about them specifically, Joris, was what's your feeling on whether they should make a coaching change now? Because this is the one thing the Beveren fans keep asking of us. we think it's time now. We'd like to see a change. Why are the club not making the change when, they are rather worried about, their survival at challenger level now, which I don't think they should be. I think they will pick up enough points to remain in this division. I don't think really they're at danger of losing that status at all. But do you think that a coaching change is now in order?
Well, the fans have been screaming for that for a long while now already. I think there was already a feeling before the season that maybe a change was in order. But at this point, it definitely feels like it's time, I think, as well. Indeed, so short answer. Yes, because it's been going on for a while, and there were already doubts in the beginning as well already for the season. Probably not inside the club, obviously. Otherwise, he would not be still there. But I have a feeling that it's no longer sustainable.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. I think I felt 2 or 3 weeks ago when the pressure was building a little bit that he needed to be given just that little bit more time. But I don't think there are any indications at the moment that things are going to change. And I think sometimes you just kind of need to make that call. And I think changing things up might be the catalyst that might start to produce some results. And I think obviously there was another small fan protest after the game this weekend as well, and that's likely to become a regular fixture. The more that the kind of malaise that's set in is there, and something certainly needs to be done to relieve the pressure on a number of people there. So that's one to keep an eye on over the next week or so. I think that's just about it for this week, Joris. Obviously, we will be away now for the international break, so we will be back in a couple of weeks. But it's been great to catch up with you about the action this week, Joris.
Likewise, and it was nice talking to a celebrity.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Joris is referring to what I give a little hint at about earlier on today. I was doing a little live television piece to Sky Sports here in the UK about the ongoing links between former Genk and Club Brugge T1 Philippe Clement, who looks very close now to sealing a move to Rangers here in Glasgow, where I'm recording this evening. So we'll see if anything comes of that in the coming hours. But that was a lot of fun to do. So as I was saying, we'll be away for a couple of weeks. We'll be back after the international break. Hopefully the Red Devils manage to bag more points for us. Maybe we'll see Eden Hazard in the stands, taking in some action now that he's retired, of course, Joris. Interesting one, that, actually, because, of course, he is the fourth most capped Red Devil of all time. 126 caps, 33 goals. Not bad at all. Probably would have got more caps if he hadn't retired now as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he crops up at the next couple of home games. So we'll be back soon. And remember, you can always get in touch with us on our socials. You know where to find us. You can email us. You can find us individually as well. We love getting listeners' questions, and thanks so much for the ones that we got this week as well. We got some really good ones there too. So we'll speak to you very soon on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.